then he said something very beautiful. He said, oh, your Gurudev has given me a very great gift, a very great gift. But in order to explain that very great gift, I need to tell about the last meeting between the two of them that took place in Vrindavan some couple weeks before Srila Prabhupada departed, maybe a little longer, when Srila Prabhupada was calling in the different godbrothers and in a very meek and humble way apologizing if he had caused any offenses during his preaching. And of course Srila Puri Maharaj said, oh no, you have not caused any offense. If anyone has, it would have been us. And then Prabhupada said, he said, I am leaving soon from this world. He said, I am going from this world. He said, and I want to know if you would give me a gift, like a loving Vaishnava gift. And Puri Maharaj said, yes, yes, Maharaj, anything, whatever you want. And Srila Prabhupada said, I am leaving soon, and I wanted to go on parikrama of Govardhan and Vrindavan Dham, Braj Mandala. He goes, I wanted to go on this parikrama, but I've not been able to go. He said, and I remember when our Guru Maharaj was leaving from this world, and you wanted to sing for him, but you weren't able. He said, so would you sing for me now? He goes, would you sing Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan? He goes, and then I will go on parikrama. So Prabhupada closed his eyes, and Srila Puri Maharaj closed his eyes, and he sang that. And Prabhupada went on parikrama. And tears were dripping from his eyes, both of their eyes, very, very sweetly. And then, when that was over, after a little while, then Srila Prabhupada said, oh, my dear godbrother, he goes, now I'd like to know if I can give you a gift. So Puri Maharaj said, yes, Maharaj, anything, whatever you do, give, I will take. So Prabhupada whispered over to one of his servants, and in a few moments he came back carrying a plate of Mahaprasadam from Krishna and Balaram, from Radhashama Sundar. And that boy started to hand it to Puri Maharaj, and then Prabhupada put his own hand on there as well, and he said, please don't be shy to take. I am giving, I am touching with my own hand. You please take. So Puri Maharaj said that it was halava, and he just took some halava, and he said that when he took that halava, so much mercy came into his heart, so much deep, deep realizations and mercy. And so now I'll tell you what he said to me. Because he couldn't speak so well, they had been giving him oxygen and everything, but he wanted to say this, and even though they had been trying to block anyone from coming in the room, when he found out that he wanted this to be known in the world, first he just started to weep, and he was rubbing my head and saying, oh, your Guru Maharaj is so wonderful. He is so doyal, he is so mercy. He said, you are so fortunate. Because he pleased our Guru Maharaj more than anyone could ever imagine. Oh, how he pleased him. And then he said, and he also gave some mercy to me. He said he helped me in a very special way by his gifts. He said, and because of those gifts, I also was able to do some little service in this regard of my Gurudev's desire to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. He said he did everything, but I got to do some little only because of his mercy. He said he taught me that all jivas, no matter what their birth and their disqualification, are qualified to take Krishna consciousness. He said all jivas. Doesn't have to be Brahmin, doesn't have to be from India. He said he taught me that by his special agency of his gifts. And then he began to weep, and then he was just going, Doyal, Doyal, his mercy, his mercy. There's some very beautiful stories about Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. One was told to me by one servant of his, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, is that when Srila Prabhupada first came back from America, he had written one telegram to Sridhar Maharaj that he would be coming on this so-and-so day, but he didn't say when or what train. So the servant noticed that Sridhar Maharaj, all day he was highly excited and walking up and down on his balcony and waiting and looking and craning his eyes, not taking prasadam or anything, just waiting. And apparently sometime in the late afternoon, they heard a creaking at the gate, and Prabhupada came with one or two young boys with him, and Westerners, carrying their luggage. They had just gotten off of one rickshaw. And they came to the gate, and Prabhupada opened the gate. And when he saw Srila Sridhar Maharaj on the balcony, because he could see, he dropped his suitcases and he began to run towards the stairway. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj also began to run down the stairway. And then they both ran as fast as they could. And when they met in the middle somewhere, they grabbed each other, and then they started going for touching each other's feet, and who could touch each other's feet. And then they were just touching each other's feet and holding each other's feet and weeping and embracing each other. So there was some beautiful friendship there. This is a memory told to me by Srila Govinda Maharaj, the Acharya after Srila Sridhar Maharaj of the Chaitanya Saraswat Math in Navadvip. And he was a young boy at that time, a student of Sanskrit. And Srila Prabhupada had that house that we talked about at Sita Kanta Banerjee Lane in Calcutta. But he also had next door to that, it was like a little bit of a duplex, long buildings, narrow buildings. He had his pharmaceutical company there where he used to make up his formulas and do his business. And above that was a little two-room kind of apartment where he had given that to Srila Sridhar Maharaj as a Gaudiya Math. And whenever Srila Sridhar Maharaj came from Navadvip, they would have programs then. If Srila Prabhupada knew so many people in Calcutta, he would organize all these programs. Srila Sridhar Maharaj didn't like to come to Calcutta, but Prabhupada would often beg him, and he would say, "Oh, he's pulling me, I don't want to go." And Prabhupada would always plan these big programs. So Govinda Maharaj at that time was a brahmachari, wearing saffron, but he said he didn't know anything. And he was just a student. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, when he would leave, he would ask Srila Prabhupada to give him classes in English in his Bhagavad Gita as it is, because Srila Prabhupada at that time, I guess, was working on that. And so he said he got to be the first student because he couldn't understand anything hardly. But he said Prabhupada would give these very beautiful long lectures, and he was trying to learn English as well. And he said that actually he helped him in that way because he was such a wonderful teacher. But he said that whenever Srila Sridhar Maharaj would come, then Srila Prabhupada would become quite excited. And as soon as he did his morning program at his house with this family who wasn't interested as much, he would come next door. And then he and Srila Sridhar Maharaj would sit there and they would begin to have Bhagavatam class. And they would start out and they would keep going and this full nectar of just more and more Krishna Katha and, beautiful philosophical, deep discussions. And they were both so absorbed that sometimes the whole morning and even part of the afternoon would go by. And Prabhupada, many days, never even got around to opening his pharmaceutical business because they were too absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And Govinda Maharaj said that he didn't used to like that so much because he didn't get prasadam. And he would just be sitting there kind of nervously and waiting for them to be finished so he could eat. But he said they would be so oblivious, neither of them even cared for food or water. They would just be, talking with Hari Katha. And then he said at one point he would be like nervous and making these squirming faces. And then he said that Srila Prabhupada in a very fatherly way would look to him and say, "Oh, Govinda, here." And he'd come and he'd hand him a little Mahaprasadam and say, "You okay now? You're just a boy. You need to eat." And then they would go on with the Hari Katha. And also Srila Prabhupada used to organize all sorts of programs in Calcutta between, the family that he lived in, which was a huge extended family between the Days and the Mullicks and, all of these different in-laws. He knew many, many people, including people from his business. So he would set up these Namahata programs, and he would organize everything. He would invite all the people, he'd make sure they came, he called, he brought all the books, he had all the bhajans ready, he brought the prasadam, he organized everything. And then he would try and pull Srila Sridhar Maharaj to come to be the speaker because he was older and he was saffron, in a renunciate. Because in those days people didn't so much respect a grihasta. So Prabhupada knew this well, and so when he would get Srila Sridhar Maharaj he would be very glad. But when he couldn't get Srila Sridhar Maharaj, either he wasn't there or he couldn't see at night, so well he didn't want to come, then he would drag Govinda Maharaj there, who was just a little young brahmachari, and he said, I was terrified. He goes, I didn't know anything. He goes, I barely knew the songs. But he would sit me up on the little Vyasasan seat, and he would make me say the prayers, the invocation prayers. So he said, I would say those prayers, the Mangalacharam prayers. He said, and then I would start looking around desperately, like panicking that I couldn't say anything more. He goes, but very gracefully and very masterfully, he said, Srila Prabhupada would continue the rest of the whole lecture from the floor where he sat. And he would mesmerize everyone, and people forgot completely that it was coming from a grihasta sitting on the floor.